This is an ODB Films production. Visit odbfilms.com today.
In Latin, Renovo means to renew, restore, or revive. The show is all about growing in our understanding and practice of faith. Past episodes are available wherever you like to listen to podcasts. I'm Doug Tuke, the Vice President of Ministry Advancement at ODB Films. And today, a pet topic, a great topic. I've been wanting to do this show for a really long time. It's a backyard Rocky Mountain story, but it's also an international story, one that I hope all of you embrace and get excited about because it's incredible. Nothing less than Our Lady of the Rockies, an incredible monument to our mother. And if you know nothing about what I'm talking about, you're going to really enjoy this show. And if you're from the West or you've stooped around Butte, Montana from I-90 and you've seen it, you might learn a few things about it. All of us locals know all kinds of stories about Our Lady of the Rockies, but I'm really excited to share. It's really grown in popularity. We'll talk about that in the show, what it is, why it is what it is, and where it came from, and all those kind of cool things. So enjoy this narrative about the third largest statue in the United States, right? It bears the image of the Blessed Mother. It stands across the Rocky Mountain Continental Divide, 3,000 feet above the city where I visit quite often, Butte, Montana. Love that place. It's a massive 90-foot tall, 60-ton steel statue, Our Lady of the Rockies, overlooking Butte. And for being one of the world's great engineering marvels, it's a gem that's really kind of just being discovered. Since it was built in 1985, people from all over the world have been traveling to this pretty remote outpost in Montana to see Our Lady in ever greater numbers. But I want to really get into how it came to be. You know, like, why is it what it is? Because I think a lot of people just don't know. So as we'll see, Our Lady of the Rockies, it's a manifestation of really the Butte community. There was a lot that went into this, the building of this incredible statue, the figure of the Blessed Virgin Mary. It's anchored on a mountaintop, just east of the city. It's visible for miles around. It's really an icon for Butte's residents and a lot of pilgrims right along I-90. So the Madonna and the people who put her there, they tell a pretty incredible story of resilience, innovation, and trust in God. And that's the people of Butte right there. I mean, just the incredible people of Butte and who they are. You know, Montanans make fun of Butte all the time, Butte, America. But you go to Butte and you realize really quickly, this is a sharp-witted, mostly Irish-American, blue-collar, gritty town with amazing people. And it just doesn't surprise you that something of this great really manifested itself out of the talents and the giftedness that was there. So Butte began as a really humble silver mining camp until the discovery of rich, these sort of subterranean copper veins in 1880 coincided with the advent of electrification and the nation's real just like hunger, its appetite for telephone wire and conductors, and copper is in all those things. So overnight, miners and laborers flocked to Butte from all over the globe, including England, Italy, Slovakia, China, and especially Catholic Ireland. And Butte's economy just skyrocketed there at the late 19th century. So as the networks of miles-long tunnels grew beneath ground, the city above really flourished. Consisted of a super diverse ethnic neighborhoods, beautiful architecture. Seriously, come visit it. Beautiful architecture, and a really kind of a sophisticated art scene, which is still murmurs today. There's still kind of a beauty and a celebration. The folk festival and Aring Ra, the Irish festival, incredible stuff. What was once a collection of kind of tents around muddy creeks ballooned into a population of 90,000 people at one point, becoming the largest city between St. Louis and San Francisco. Can you believe that? Butte, Montana. And it was easily the world's top copper producer. There was a time in the world where there was no real device that had copper that didn't come from Butte. Just incredible. And it was said that there were more Irishmen in Butte than in Ireland, which it wouldn't surprise me. Just incredible. So Butte's riches were also really spiritual. Since a large majority of the miners were from Italy, Germany, and Ireland, Catholicism really thrived, and it took faith and determination to pile into a crowded mine cage and plummet thousands of feet to this kind of dark, hot, dusty tunnel from which were formed with a drill bit, blasting cap, and really just kind of a miner's grit to extract the ore that illuminated cities and really powered progress. Just kind of amazing. Former resident John W. Blewett described the Catholic atmosphere he wrote a book called Riches Above, Riches Below, and it's really great. This is what he says. He says, one of the masses that I loved to serve as a boy was the 5:15 a.m. mass in our parish. The church was filled with miners carrying their breakfast, lunch pails, of course. A lot of times these pasties, which were these wrapped gravy and potato sandwiches. In some instances, their wives and children would be with them at that early hour. For everyone there, the Holy Eucharist was the first and most important nourishment taken that day. Isn't that amazing? He goes on, he says, when the Mass was ended and we had finished begging St. Michael for God's protection, the miners headed for what was called the richest hill on earth. Knowing that one of them might not come out of the mine alive, it was comforting to know that they had already offered the prayer, works, joys, and sufferings of the day to Jesus through the Immaculate Heart of Mary. That's just unique. That's profound and unique. So complete with baptismal picnics, Eucharistic processions, St. Patrick's Day revelry, which still goes on today, and Irish wakes, Catholicism was really woven into everyday life in Butte. The city once boasted the 10 Catholic churches, 7 parishes, 9 Catholic schools, and was known across the state as really a lush fountain for religious vocations. The Diocese of Helena, really, there's a whole generation of priests in the Diocese of Helena, Montana that would benefited from the incredible vocations that came out of that Butte Anaconda area. Just incredible stuff. Sadly, the source of Butte's real material prosperity ran dry, like most mining towns. And as the demand for copper lessened and the mining industry expanded internationally, the mines and Butte's economy took a huge, just a total nosedive. By 1975, nearly all the mines were closed, leaving the community absolutely reeling and really in despair. So with the loss of thousands of mining jobs, the industry, which had historically created millionaires and really what would have been billionaires today, and high-paying labor positions, it basically vanished. What was once America's boomtown really shrunk into a population below 40,000 people. So locals feared Butte would become a ghost town, just be completely abandoned. What's amazing is today, you can go visit Butte, and there are a lot of gigantic, beautiful, empty buildings. You're talking about a population that was nearing 100,000 that still today is around 40,000. So there's infrastructure that just isn't used. And of course, many of these Catholic parishes have been closed and whatnot. Amazing, amazing stuff. But in the midst of that, in the 70s, a longtime electrician in one of Butte's surface pits, his name was Bob O'Bill, had a setback of really a different kind. In 1979, his wife was seriously ill with cancer and was fighting for her life. A devout Catholic, Bob promised the Lord that he would erect a life-sized statue of the Virgin Mary if his wife recovered. And miraculously, Mrs. O'Bill made a complete recovery. So Bob was at work in the pit when he told his mining buddies about his plans to make good on his promise and build a small statue to Mary. The miners' hall, drivers, electricians, iron workers, explosive experts, they all kind of surprised Bob by saying, that's not enough for your wife's healing. This statue has to be the tallest in the country and visible for all to see. And that is really what began the plan to put Mary on the mountain. There's a song called Mary on the Mountain by a little duo that I believe got started out of Bozeman called Story Hill. They used to be called Chris and Johnny. And in it, they actually make fun of it. They make fun of Our Lady of Rockies as if it was, kind of intimidating, like a mother looking down on her children all the time, ready to reprimand you. And I always found that song really funny because I was like, so I think that they're just afraid of accountability, which clearly the Irish Catholic culture in Butte was not. They honored her and they wanted her accountability. So I think I think it's amazing. I just think Butte's amazing. So lots of people scoffed at this proposal, right? The task was extraordinarily daunting and it was ridiculously expensive and no one had money. And the town was literally on the verge of bankruptcy. There was just no way. Yet eventually, this idea, the notion, it really caught fire among the community, especially among the hardest hit, the miners, engineers, metalworkers. Not one of them were professional artists, not even close, promoters, organizers, or public figures. They were God-fearing, lunch pail laborers, not unlike Jesus the carpenter, right? I mean, these were blue-collar Butte people. In 1980, a volunteer crew began bulldozing a 5-mile road up the steep mountain ridges, sometimes advancing only about 12 feet a day because of the rocks, often facing these kind of treacherous conditions, the elements, mechanical failures, outdated equipment. After 2 long years, this kind of extremely dangerous and rough path was completed while work on the statue continued just on a dime, right? And an amazing hero surfaced, Leroy Lee, a man with only a grade school education and no design experience. And he led a team of volunteer welders and steel workers, often working nights and weekends, to assemble Our Lady in a local a heavy equipment yard. So the initiative involved entire families, while the men bulldozed and welded the wives and children through fundraiser, potluck dinners, raffles, really just keeping the project alive with vital funds, right? So Lee's ingenious design required construction of 3 really big segments, these gigantic segments. Each 20-ton segment was airlifted by a heavy lift National Guard helicopter. There's a whole story behind the helicopters. We'll get into some of that later. Maneuvering past these jagged peaks and whipping winds. If you've ever been to Butte, Montana, you are on the divide. There's a mile high. The winter is treacherous. And at one point, the helicopter was actually thrown by a gust over the side of the mountain to the horror of people that were watching, workers, news camera operators. Everybody freaked out. But instead of dropping the load, the pilot actually fought to regain control against all these odds and resurfaced. And when the aircraft and the segment reappeared over Saddleback Ridge that morning, people cried tears of joy. It was a big deal in the news back in 85. The final piece gets dropped into place December 17th, 1985, when the strong, reassuring the head of Our Lady was lifted into place. The entire town was at a standstill, kind of nervously watching. It was pretty sketchy how they were able to put it into place. When they saw their completed project, the town erupted into cheers. I mean, everybody just rallied around this gigantic statue. Sirens, church bells, horns could be heard echoing through the valley. 6 years of hard work really had brought just a desperate, struggling community together. Their dream had really become a reality, a generation, a gift for generations to come. Butte natives, pilgrims, everybody was just kind of cheering. I'm sure there's plenty of non-religious who thought it was a farce and ridiculous, but man, that European Catholic that had labored so long to be so blessed and celebrated by her image, I'm sure was a big deal. The fruits have been pretty immeasurable, actually. Though the mines never reopened to their former capacity, not even close, Butte's economy and really kind of the spirit of the people really did improve during the construction and then the years that immediately followed. Some jobs increased, several businesses started and reopened. The last brothel, one of the country's few remaining, finally closed its doors. Today, Our Lady of the Rockies stands, it's really a source of pride for Butte. It's a beacon for all who travel by on Interstate 90 and for all who see her. And during the day, she really just kind of watches over the valley. And at night, she's illuminated in this kind of votive, this makes kind of a memory for the city's deceased. And many a local will tell you she's a testament to the city's spirit, a resilient, can-do attitude, unshakable faith that through her son, really all things are possible. It's an amazing statement. Just this thing is huge. Here's a basic timeline of kind of how this went down. So August 28, 1982, it was reported that the road to Our Lady site had been completed. These guys had just ripped up this amazing hillside. Bulldozers, loaders, graders used to pave the way, and the work included the removal of large boulders and number of trees. And I'm talking boulders the size of cars. This is all volunteer, by the way. Amazing, right? July 83, almost a year later, an 8-foot hand of Our Lady was finished. Although at first the hands were to be folded, there was kind of a decision that was made early on to have them face outward, kind of an open-handed image of Our Lady. January 2nd, 1984, about a half a year later, the head of Our Lady statue neared completion, measuring 16 feet high. It was made with rolled plate steel, and that was constructed by Leroy Lee and Ron Harris, right? September 29th, 1984, another kind of half year ahead. There's a huge rummage and bake sale held at St. Joseph's Gymnasium to help cover the assembly cost, the building cost. December 1984, more than halfway through the project, 54 feet of the 90-foot Our Lady statue had been completed. It was in this yard. Lots of people would go visit. March 19th, 1985, President Ronald Reagan wrote a letter to Joe Roberts calling Our Lady, the endeavor, the whole project, a splendid expression of the faith and cooperation among the people of Butte. Go Ronald Reagan. That's impressive. June 1985, all the production halted because a family of small blackbirds had actually taken up residence on a structure support, and workers didn't want to disturb them. It was like a big thing in the news. I know, small town. I love it. And after a week, the family of birds moved on, and then they were able to move forward. It was kind of a big deal. August 29th, 1985, Butte native Joe Monahan of Washington, D.C., and former Secretary of the State and retired Air Force Colonel Stan Kimmett of Great Falls met with the National Guard head, Lieutenant Emmett Walter Jr., to request military help in getting Our Lady to the East Ridge. They wanted to use gigantic Sikorsky helicopters from the Air National Guard to make this thing happen. August 29th, 1985 is when that happened. In September 1985, workers had begun laying the 425-ton concrete base up on the mountain in preparation for Our Lady of the Rockies to be there, to be placed there. To build the base, 1,200 sacks of concrete were needed, along with 8,000 gallons of water. You're talking about a jagged mountain. It's unbelievable. September 27th, 1985, it was announced that the Pentagon may be asked to assist in the flying of Our Lady. That's just fascinating. It was all over the news. October 29th, 1985, Montana Senator John Melcher steps up to the plate for Our Lady. He meets with the Secretary of the Army, John Marsh, to request a military helicopter for Our Lady. November 21st, 1985, U.S. Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger approves the use of military helicopters to lift it up onto Saddle Rock. December 17th, 1985, airlift begun as the 88-foot Sky Crane helicopter headed to Roberts Rocky Mountain Equipment to begin the 2 trips to the East Ridge to carry a 2-ton section of skirting and the 14,800-pound section that would be rested at first. Chief Executive Don Peoples proclaimed it to be Our Lady of the Rockies Week. Peoples called the project an absolute labor of love. It was a big deal. So by December 18th, 1985, 2 more sections were hauled up to the East Ridge. In the morning, the helicopter put a 17,000-pound section in place. By afternoon, another piece, more than 2,000 pounds heavier than the last one, was on the East Ridge. Everything was going great. The Captain Mark Comstock, he was quoted as saying while he was flying, on the 19th, however, the next day, that's when wind proved to be a big problem for the National Guard crew, as Our Lady's hands, with a weight of 19,000 pounds, caused the helicopter to spin uncontrollably as it tried to set it down atop the other 4 sections that were already in place. The skyscraper turned back and laid the section down near the Mormon church, actually, on 4 Mile Road, right there in Butte. Although one of the statue's fingers was slightly damaged, the crew was successful in a second attempt at 4 p.m. that very, very same day. Unbelievable. Christmas Day, 1985, the Montana Standard, the Butte paper, called Our Lady a shining example of what can be accomplished when the people of Butte pledge themselves to a difficult task. Really kind of rallied the people, which is amazing. The following year, December 20th, Our Lady noted it was kind of the 1-year anniversary. It was a Butte Unity Day celebration. They showed videos of the putting it together. There was prayers, readings, a huge public dance. September 1987, Our Lady Foundation received a $174,922 bill from the National Guard Bureau in Washington, D.C. The bill was for 17 hours and 24 minutes of aircraft time. That eventually got negotiated away, but the government was trying to bill Butte for putting Our Lady together. In November 12th, 1987, 28 yards of concrete was poured to provide a foundation for the statue's kind of interior supports. December 12th, 1987, the second annual Our Lady Telethon netted about $20,000 in pledges. September 20th, 1992, moving forward, Leroy Lee, one of the main designers and builders of Our Lady of the Rockies, he tells the Montana Standard that he credits Mary, Mother of Jesus Christ with the string of miracles that led to the completion and placement of the statue. And Lee had just written his own account in a book called Our Lady Builds a Statue, which is actually it's a pretty great book. It's living history, amazing stuff. March 3rd, 1994, it was announced that a chapel would be in the works at the base of Our Lady. Very, very cool. And December 25th, Christmas 1997, Joe and Joanne Roberts received a papal blessing from John Paul II, which was amazing. Yeah, John Paul II actually received Joe Roberts' book the previous summer about the design and the building of what was going on. Pretty cool. July 1st, 1998, federal and state highway officials met with Our Lady representatives to discuss a proposed tram. So in December 9th, 1998, Butte Silverbow pledged $2.6 million collateral for an Our Lady tram so that you could go directly up to the statue. Now there's like bus tours and things like that launch out from the mall. April 3rd, 1999, this awesome local Quick Lube, Bruce's Quick Lube, donated 100% of money made from oil changes to the tram project to really get it off the ground. December 2001, a gift of 40 acres on the East Ridge to serve as a base for the proposed tram to the 90-foot statue of Mary was donated in memory of Richard and Esther Simon, longtime Butte residents who operated Rocky Mountain Dairy. In November 18, 2015, an estimated 800 people attend the Our Lady of Rockies 30th anniversary fundraiser dinner at the Butte Civic Center. And then in December 13, 2015, these people who really want to build this tram tell the Montana Standard that the plans are about to take off. It has not been built yet. So access is still tour buses and private tours and things like that. But there's a lot of people who are invested in this idea, and it would be an amazing gift, especially for pilgrims, to get to experience this amazing view, as well as just the blessing of Our Lady. But there's a chapel up there, and people have done weddings up there and some amazing stuff. Friends, I'm telling you, this is a total Americana gift. You got to see it. Make it a part of your plans. Come see Our Lady of the Rockies in Butte, Montana. You will not be disappointed. Grab your rosary and tell her thank you for looking over this incredible small town of blue-collar Irish who truly brought telecommunications into the modern era, and Our Lady has clearly blessed them with her presence. Such good stuff. Thanks for listening. Sincerely, we are partners in the journey of faith. I hope you'll share the Renovo podcast with friends and foes. Send your topic suggestions, questions, and/or comments to doug@odbfilms.com. Always remember to engage the tradition and live the conversion. Until next time, God bless.